Saudia, legally Saudi Arabian Airlines, is the flag carrier airline of Saudi Arabia, based in Jeddah. The airline's main operational base is at Jeddah-King Abdulaziz International Airport. Other major hubs are Riyadh-King Khalid International Airport and Dammam-King Fahd International Airport. The new Dammam Airport was opened for commercial use on the 28th of November 1999. Dhahran International Airport, in use until then, has reverted to being used as a military base. The airline is the third largest in the Middle East in terms of revenue, behind Emirates and Qatar Airways. It operates domestic and international scheduled flights to over 120 destinations in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe and North America. Domestic and international charter flights are operated mostly during the Ramadan and the Hajj season. Saudia is a member of the Arab Air Carriers Organization. The airline joined the SkyTeam Airline Alliance on the 29th of May 2012. History. When U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt presented a Douglas DC-3 as a gift to King Abdulaziz ibn Saud in 1945. The event marked the kingdom's gradual development of civil aviation. The nation's flag carrier, Saudia, was founded as Saudi Arabian Airlines in September 1945 as a fully owned government agency under the control of the Ministry of Defense, with TWA running the airline under a management contract. For the beginning until the end, Jeddah-King Airport, very near the town centre, served as the flag carrier's main base. Among the airline's early operations was a special flight from Jeddah in Palestine, a British mandate at the time, to carry Hajj pilgrims to Jeddah. The airline used 5 DC-3 aircraft to launch scheduled operations on the Jeddah-Riyadh-Dhahran route in March 1947. Followed by its first international service between Jeddah and Cairo also in that same month. Service to Damascus and Beirut followed in early 1948. The following year saw the first of 5 Bristol 170s being received. These aircraft offered the airline the flexibility of carrying both passengers and cargo. The slow but steady growth continued during the 1950s and services were inaugurated to Istanbul, Karachi, Amman, Kuwait City, Asmara, and Port Sudan. The fleet also saw a small growth during the 1950s, with 5 DC-4s and 10 Convair 340s, the first pressurized aircraft for the airline. In 1959, the airline's first maintenance center was inaugurated in Jeddah. Also during this decade, the very important air link between Jeddah and Riyadh saw improvement. In 1962, the airline took delivery of 2 Boeing 720s, becoming the third Middle Eastern airline to fly jet aircraft, after Cyprus Airways with the de Havilland Comet in 1960 and El Al with the Boeing 707 in 1961. On the 19th of February 1963, the airline became a registered company, with King Faisal of Saudi Arabia signing the papers that declared Saudia a fully independent company. DC-6s and Boeing 707s were later bought, and the airline joined the AACO, the Arab Air Carriers Organization. Services were started to Sharjah, Tehran, Khartoum, Mumbai, Tripoli, Tunis, Rabat, Geneva, Frankfurt, and London. In the 1970s, a new livery was introduced. The carrier's name was changed to Saudia on 1 April 1972. Boeing 737 and Fokker F-28 equipment was bought, with the 737s replacing the Douglas DC-9. The first all-cargo flights between Saudi Arabia and Europe were started, and Lockheed L1011s and Fairchild FH-27s were introduced. New services, including the Arabian Express no-reservation shuttle flights between Jeddah and Riyadh. The Special Flight Services was set up as a special unit of Saudia, and operates special flights for the royal family and government agencies. Service was also started to Rome, Paris, Muscat, Kano, and Stockholm. The Pan Am Saudia joint service between Dhahran and New York City started on 3 February 1979. Some services opened during the 1980s for the airline, such as Saudia catering. Flights were started to Athens, Bangkok, Dhaka, Mogadishu, Nairobi, New York, Madrid, Singapore, Manila, Delhi, Islamabad, Seoul, Baghdad, Amsterdam, Colombo, Nice, Lahore, Brussels, Dhaka, Kuala Lumpur and Taipei. Horizon Class, a business-class service, was established to offer enhanced service to passengers. Cargo hubs were built at Brussels and Taipei. Airbus A300s, Boeing 747s, and Cessna citations were also added to the fleet. The citations for the SFS service. To conclude the decade, services were introduced in 1989 to Larnaca and Addis Ababa. On July 1, 1982, the first non-stop service was inaugurated from Jeddah to New York with the airline's Boeing 747 SP aircraft. This service, along with the Riyadh-New York service introduced later. In the 1990s, services were introduced to Orlando, Chennai, Asmara, Washington, D.C., Johannesburg, Alexandria, Milan, Malaga, and Sana'a. Boeing 777s, MD-90s and MD-11s were introduced. New female flight attendant uniforms designed by Adnan Akbar were introduced. A new corporate identity was launched on 16 July 1996, featuring a sand-colored fuselage with contrasting dark blue tailfan, the center of which featured stylized representation of the House of Saud crest. The Saudia name was dropped in the identity revamp, with Saudi Arabian Airlines name used. On 8 October 2000, Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, the Saudi Minister of Defense and Aviation, signed a contract to conduct studies for the privatization of Saudi Arabian Airlines. In preparation for this, the airline was restructured to allow non-core units, including Saudia catering, ground handling services and maintenance, as well as the Prince Sultan Flight Academy in Jeddah, to be transformed into commercial units and profit centers. In April 2005, the Saudi government indicated that the airline may also lose its monopoly on domestic services. Saudi Arabian Airlines did achieve operational profits in 2002, which doubled in 2003, but the profits were primarily due to over 1 billion riyals on deferred income amortized annually in the income statement, courtesy of the 70 aircraft gifted to the airline by the Saudi government. In 2004, the airline carried over 15 million passengers and recorded a 14% rise in profits. In April the following year, the airline ordered 15 Embraer E170LR aircraft in a deal worth $400 million. In 2006, Saudi began the process of dividing itself into strategic business units. The catering unit was the first to be privatized. In August 2007, Saudi Arabia's Council of Ministers approved the conversion of strategic units into companies. It is planned that ground services, technical services, air cargo and the Prince Sultan Aviation Academy medical division, as well as the catering unit, will become subsidiaries of a holding company. The airline reverted to its abbreviated English brand name Saudia from Saudi Arabian Airlines on 29 May 2012. The name was changed to celebrate the company's entry into the SkyTeam airline alliance on that day, and it was a part of a larger rebranding initiative. Saudia received 64 new airplanes by the end of 2012, 6 Boeing airplanes and 58 Airbus airplanes. Another 8 Boeing 787-9 aircraft will join the fleet of Saudia in 2015. In April 2016, Saudia announced the creation of a low-cost subsidiary, RuthAS. The airline was launched as part of Saudia Group's SV2020 transformation strategy, which intends to transform the group's units into world-class organizations by 2020. RuthAS will serve domestic and regional destinations, beginning flights in mid-2017. Destinations. Codeshare agreements. Saudia has codeshare agreements with the following airlines. Fleet. Current fleet as of February 2016. The Saudia fleet consists of the following aircraft, including its passenger, cargo and government fleet. Historic fleet. Saudia formerly operated the following aircraft. Other aircraft. Saudia Special Flight Services, VIP flights, and private aviation operate the following, a number of which sport the airline's livery: 6 Beechcraft Bonanza, 2 Dassault Falcon 900, 4 Dassault Falcon 7X, 6 Gulfstream 4, 6 Hawker 400XP. Some military C-130s are also painted with the Saudia colors and are flown by Royal Saudi Air Force crews to support Saudi official activities in the region and Europe. In-flight services. The in-flight magazine of Saudia is called Ahlan wa Sahlan. No alcoholic beverages or pork are served on board in accordance with Islamic dietary laws. Its Airbus A330-300 fleet and a select Boeing 777-300 aircraft are equipped with Wi-Fi and mobile network portability on board. Some aircraft also offer onboard specialized prayer areas. Incidents and accidents. On the 25th of September 1959, a Saudia Douglas DC-4HZAAF crashed shortly after takeoff from Jeddah. The cause of the accident was pilot error followed by a stall. All 67 passengers and 5 crew survived. On the 9th of February 1968, a Douglas C-47 was damaged beyond economic repair at an unknown location. On the 10th of November 1970, a Douglas DC-3 on a flight from Amman Civil Airport, Jordan to King Khalid International Airport, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia was hijacked and diverted to Damascus Airport, Syria. On the 11th of July 1972, a Douglas C-47B was damaged beyond economic repair in an accident at Tabuk Airport. On the 19th of August 1980, Saudia Flight 163, a Lockheed L-1011-200 TriStar operating Karachi Riyadh Jeddah, was completely destroyed by fire at Riyadh Airport with the loss of all 301 people on board due to delays in evacuating the aircraft. This was the deadliest accident experienced by Saudia until 312 were killed in the loss of Flight 763 over 16 years later. On the 22nd of December 1980, Saudia Flight 162, a Lockheed L-1011-200 TriStar operating Dhahran to Karachi, experienced an explosive decompression, penetrating the passenger cabin. The hole sucked out 2 passengers and depressurized the cabin. On the 5th of April 1984, a Saudi Lockheed L-1011 TriStar on final approach to Damascus from Jeddah was hijacked by a Syrian national. The hijacker demanded to be taken to Istanbul, Turkey, but changed his mind and requested to go to Stockholm, Sweden. After landing in Istanbul to refuel, the pilot pushed the hijacker out out of the emergency exit, who was arrested. On 12 November 1996, of Saudia Boeing 747-100B, operating Flight 763, was involved in the 1996 Jeddah-Dadri mid-air collision. The aircraft was on its way from New Delhi, India, to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia when a Kazakhstan Airlines Ilyushin Il-76 collided with it over the village of Jeddah-Dadri, some miles west of New Delhi. Flight 763 was carrying 312 people, all of whom, along with 37 more on the Kazakh aircraft, died, for a grand total of 349 fatalities. The loss of Flight 763 alone remains Saudia's worst accident in terms of fatalities. The accident overall also remains the world's deadliest mid-air collision and the third deadliest aviation disaster in history, as well as the deadliest one with no survivors. On 14 October 2000, Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 115, flying from Jeddah to London, was hijacked en route by two men who claimed they were armed with explosives. The hijackers commandeered a Boeing 777-200 to Baghdad, Iraq, where all 90 passengers and 15 crew members were safely released. The two hijackers, identified as Lieutenant Faisal Naji Hamoud al-Bilawi and First Lieutenant Aishali Hussein al-Faridi, both Saudi citizens, were arrested and later extradited to Saudi Arabia in 2003. On 23 August 2001, at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Malaysia, a Boeing 747-300 suffered nose damage as it entered a monsoon drainage ditch while it was being taxied by maintenance staff from the hangar to the gate before a return flight to Saudi Arabia. None of the 6 crew members on board at the time were injured. On 8 September 2005, a Boeing 747 traveling from Colombo to Jeddah, carrying mostly Sri Lankan nationals to take up employment in the kingdom, received a false alarm claiming that a bomb had been planted on board. The aircraft returned to Colombo. During the evacuation, there was a passenger stampede in the wake of which one Sri Lankan woman died, 62 were injured, and 17 were hospitalized. The aircraft had taken on a load of 420 passengers in Colombo, according to the Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka. The probable cause was a breakdown of timely and effective communication amongst aerodrome controller and ground handling personnel had prevented a timely dispatch of the stepladders to the aircraft to deplane the passengers in a timely manner, which resulted in the pilot in command to order an emergency evacuation of the passengers through slides after being alarmed by the bomb threat. On 25 May 2008, a leased aircraft operating under Saudi Arabian Airlines as Flight SV-806 from Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Airport, Medina made an unscheduled landing at Zia International Airport, Dhaka. During the roll, the tower controller reported that he saw a fire on the right-hand wing. Upon vacating the runway, the crew received a fire indication for engine number 3. The fire extinguisher was activated and all engines were shut down. The aircraft, a Boeing 747-357, which was damaged beyond repair, was successfully evacuated. Only minor injuries were incurred. Investigations revealed a fuel leak where the fuel enters the front spar for engine number 3. On 5 January 2014, a leased Boeing 767 operating under Saudia was forced to make an emergency landing at Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Airport in Medina after landing gear failed to deploy. 29 people were injured in the incident. On 5 August 2014, a Boeing 747-400 operating as Flight 871 from Manila to Riyadh veered off the runway 24 of Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila while positioning for takeoff. No one on the plane or on ground were injured.